talk about the guys who didn't do so well.
Pooped in his big boy pants.
I actually think this segment is one of the more important ones that we're going to do all week because we're going to talk about guys that didn't perform, and this is trade season. This is sell season. This is, do I stick with these guys and keep rolling them out or not? So at the quarterback position, we have Peyton Manning. Peyton had a very lackluster day, a couple picks, 1 touchdown, 213 yards through the air. Is this kind of what we're going to see? Is this a defensive-led Broncos team where Manning's going to have his games, but is he a start every week?
No,
or do you start streaming him?
He's definitely not a start every week. He's a stream type of guy. But the thing that's interesting about 2 of the guys on this list, Peyton Manning and Matt Ryan, is their names say you drafted them to start him every week. And how do you start someone else over him? And Matt Ryan didn't have a bad game, but he was the 20th quarterback.
Well, Matt Ryan is a complete Matt Ryan,
right.
I don't worry about him at all here.
No,
you start him going forward.
Yeah. My point, though, is it's another thing where we look at names and don't realize game flow matters, matchups matter, and you streaming, you can get better value from certain big names like Peyton Manning, but it's a defensive-led Broncos. They're not going to be in a lot of giant shootouts because their defense keeps the game score low. So I'm a little worried about Peyton if he was my guy. I would definitely be playing matchups at least. If there's a really good matchup and Peyton, I would play him over Peyton. I had Peyton this week, for instance, ranked I think 18th or 19th on my quarterback. So,
all right, running backs. Carlos Hyde had another bad game, 8 for 20. Mike and I were talking before the show. I think you need to start looking at Carlos Hyde the way you would look at a Jaguar running back from the past few years, where this team is not good. They are not a good team. And running backs, as talented as you can be, if you're not on a very good team, if you're not competitive in these games, you're going to be game flowed out of fantasy production. Am I right?
You are absolutely correct.
And speaking of another bad team, the same thing's happening to him. Lamar Miller had another terrible game. What do we do with Hyde and Miller fantasy-wise, Jason?
You hold on to them. I don't think you're going to get enough value out of either guy. Neither one of them are cuttable, so you bench them or you play them matchups if they've got a great matchup.
Right now they're sitting 48th and 43rd.
That
this
was
week.
over the week. Yeah. I think Miller. We got that hope again, right? Because Philbin will be gone.
Yep.
Yeah. So you got to hold
they're
on
on
to
a
that
bye
hope.
week. They're on a bye week this week. So,
well, maybe they learn how to run in the bye week. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe they say hello to Lamar Miller when
you know who else we got to say hello to?
Hello.
Latavius Murray ends up being benched due to a fumble. He had 2 fumbles in the game, but he got benched.
It wasn't just the fumble. There was he caused the pick.
Yeah.
Where it bounced right off his hands.
Yep. So, Roy Hello. How you doing? Mike's been so excited to say that on the show today.
Yeah.
As are all of you who said it at your draft. And what is it? Is this just a one-time thing? Or
It's
probably.
a one-time thing. Looking at Carr and seeing what the coach said afterwards, and even what Latavius Murray was saying afterwards, this was, send a message, but he's going to be back.
Arian Foster, 8 for 10. He's back, baby.
Hooray!
He also had one of the most disgusting little fumble return for a touchdown things. This game was a complete disaster from the beginning for Houston. I am excited about Arian Foster Thursday night against the Colts. Are you guys with me?
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
Maybe he'll get to play more than a quarter or 2.
Maybe. I like him.
Yeah, so no setbacks there. That's the big news for fantasy owners. No setbacks for Arian Foster. Wide receivers that had a pretty crappy game. Jason, we talked about this. He didn't go gooser, but he got pretty darn close.
He got as close as
Roddy White, 2 for 8, coming off of 2 0-0 games. Are you preparing a eulogy?
Yeah, he is. Roddy, I remember once upon a time when you were a wide receiver 1.
Oh,
and then I remember when you were a great wide receiver 2. But you skipped wide receiver 3. And you
4,
went straight
5.
to wide receiver 8. And so we will remember you in the future as the Roddy White who was a Hall of Fame level for a couple of years.
If your team is alive in your 24-man team, then Roddy White, you start him every week.
What's a 24-man league?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have to start every player in the NFL, he's on somebody's team. Okay. Mike Evans, we talked about him 3 for 32 against Norman.
Hold on. What about Leonard Hankerson? So is Hankerson now a weekly start?
Yeah, he's a flexible guy. I would have him.
He's
over
a bye
Roddy.
week start.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a bye week start. He's just what Hearns was this week, which is a matchup and bye kind of. I can roll Hearns out there in my flex based on the matchup. When Julio goes up against somebody that is going to keep him to like 2 touchdowns on 100 yards than Hankerson. Let's talk about Odell Beckham Jr. What I thought was interesting about this game, he had 12 targets, but he only ended up with 5 for 38. We pay attention to targets. Okay, we know Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be okay. Eli Manning really trusted the other receivers on the team.
Rubes.
Another Rubes.
Ruben Randall, but not just him. Dwayne Harris. Dwayne Harris got targeted.
I don't want to talk about
Larry
Dwayne
Donnell.
Harris. I want to talk about Ruben Randall.
This was not the week for the big name wide receiver because Odell Beckham Jr., Julio Jones, and Antonio Brown all had stinkers.
Yeah.
But their teams,
Yeah.
other than I guess the Steelers lost, but the other 2 won anyway. So let's talk about tight ends real quick. Travis Kelce, 5 for 49 and a fumble.
Boom. How many targets did he actually get?
It was a disappointing game because they were in it, and they were coming back, so I expected him to have a bigger game.
I'm pulling him up right now.
Zach Ertz, 2 for 11. Kyle Rudolph, 2 for 7. It's hard to put these guys into poop their big boy pants. I don't think any of these guys got big boy pants on. I don't think Kyle Rudolph or Zach Ertz or Heath Miller were expecting big games from them.
No, but I guess they're in there just to say you guys did nothing for your NFL team this week, literally.
All right, so go sign Antonio Gates.
Yes.
If he's on your waiver wire. Consider Larry Donnell as a start because of the fact that we don't have competition there for him anymore.
Go sign Owen Daniels because he plays the Raiders next week.
Owen Daniels plays the Raiders and I don't know if it sustained this week. Jason, you signed him in one of our leagues. But the 3 previous weeks, he had increased target numbers each week.
I don't know that he had increased targets, but he did get a red zone target touchdown.
What was that again?
Target touchdown.
A target touchdown?
Target touchdown.
Kelsey had 7 targets, so that's
yeah, it's all right.
You got to target Kelsey.
He is a fumbler.
Just
career-wise, he just fumbles a lot.
But if I'm recalling correct, I don't think that was actually a fumble. I'm trying to remember if we could get the video.
Recorded as a fumble.
Yes,
and a loss.
yeah. It was a fumble officially, but it was one of those weird review things.
Well,
I thought he was down.
He's the kind of guy who either fumbles or nearly fumbles a lot, which is my point. So.